Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the 3 Gun Show. I am your host, Dave Hartman. This is episode 205, where I interview Adam Kraut of the gun collective's The Legal Brief. This podcast is brought to you by Breda USA, Italian shotguns that are the best in the world. And this is a shotgun tech tip from Team Breda. Hey, this is Dave Hartman from the 3 Gun Show with Sean Burrows from Team Breda, and Sean has a tech tip for us today. Sean, what do you got?
Today I want to tell you about cleaning the bore of your shotgun. These are smooth bore guns, and unlike the other cartridges we discharge in 3-gun, shotgun shells are plastic, and what we want to do is make sure melted plastic comes out. So go get a 12-gauge size steel brush, put it on your cleaning tube, and then put it on a drill. Put some cleaning solution in here and actually use your drill to get it out. It won't hurt your barrel, and obviously there's no rifling to mess up. And it'll keep your gun clean and keep your patterns nice and patterny.
All right, there's your tech tip from Sean Burrows from Team Breda. Check out Breda's B12i 3-gun ready inertia-driven shotgun at BredaUSA.com. That's BREDA. This podcast is brought to you by LAG Tactical. I've been using LAG gear for 3 years now, and I just got an upgrade into their new for 2018 MCS mag pouches. MCS stands for Modular Carry System and is a 2-piece design that fits most double-stack 9 and 40 mags and most AR mags. That means I can loan gear to someone in need on the range, even if we're shooting different guns. I've been using these pouches for many matches now, and they've been great. I like that you can choose the retention based on what is required by the stage, Speed Demon or Locked In Tight. I've been shooting the low-cut Supernova holster as well, and it has been a dream. They make it in a mid and high cut too if you're into that, but I'm digging the low cut, super fast draws, and plenty of retention when you need it. Check them out, lagtactical.com, and use code 3GS in all caps to save yourself 10% when placing an order. Thank you for joining me here on the 3 Gun Show. If you're new to the show, this is a weekly podcast where we talk about all things practical shooting and focus on what it takes to improve you as a 3-gunner and competitive shooter. But the show is entirely conversational, and I've found over the 3 years that I've done this that some of the best conversations and learning moments come from that third or fourth question down. Once you get past the doctrine, the gloss, and you get into the truth of why people do what they do and how it makes them successful. That's what we're all about here, so if that appeals to you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button in iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, etc. Once you do, you'll get a new episode straight to your smartphone every single Wednesday. Now on to the show. This is a departure from what we normally talk about here on the 3 Gun Show podcast, but I'm really excited to bring this interview to you because Adam Kraut is someone that is doing important work for the firearms community. So who is Adam Kraut? Adam is a practicing attorney in the firearms field, and he works hard through his work on the YouTube channel, The Gun Collective, to dispel myths surrounding legal issues as they relate to firearms. As you'll hear in the interview, Adam ran for the NRA Board of Directors in 2018 and fell short. Since we recorded this interview, he has decided to run again, so I encourage you to head over to 3gunshow.com/episode 205 for a link to sign the petition to nominate Adam for the 2019 NRA Board of Directors. If you aren't convinced yet, you will be after this interview. Now, I want to thank Vortex Optics for bringing me out to Washington for Triggrcon, where I got the opportunity to do this interview, among many other awesome experiences. And thank you to Ari and the Triggrcon staff for allowing us to use their stage to bring this great content to you. Now, enjoy this one with Adam Kraut. Adam, welcome to the 3 Gun Show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Dude, I'm excited to have you. So let's set the stage for the audience where we're at.
Sure.
We're on the stage.
We are at Triggrcon.
Triggrcon 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they set up this awesome stage for like presentations for companies to show consumers their new products and stuff like that. And they had like in a little award ceremony. So there's probably like 60 chairs sitting in front of us.
Yes.
One
there are
dude.
2 people.
Oh, two people.
One of which I know,
Oh, nice.
but not watching us live.
Yeah, so there's nothing going on today because this is Sunday, so they don't have any presentations scheduled. So we figured, like, let's get the 2 most comfortable chairs in the house.
And we did.
And here we are.
And we got a great view of the room, too. Straight smack dab in the middle. We can see to either side both sets of aisles set up, all the vendors.
This is pretty amazing. We should have brought some binoculars up here. We could actually see the product from here and wouldn't have to walk the floor.
And you work for a company that makes that possible. And
Yeah.
we neglected to do that.
I know. Can you believe that? Got to get Ruben over here. Bring us the Furies. The Furies are amazing.
Yes.
So, Adam, excited to have you on the show here. I want to tell you a fun story. I think I told you this the other day, but it'll fill the audience in a little bit. So I was getting ready to go to NRA annual meeting.
Right.
And the morning before I was getting on a plane, I was doing a podcast with Adam Maxwell from Vortex Optics, and it was what we call a match recon. And basically, he had just shot a match, and so he calls in the podcast. We have this set list of criteria that we do, and we talk about, like, the match experience, how you shoot it and stuff, and kind of some things to expect, and then it helps people practice for next year.
Next year. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's pretty cool. And then a lot of people listen to him, like, in the months leading up to the next match.
So they can be prepared for what to expect.
Yeah,
and things like
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
That's
So-
smart. That's real smart.
I think it's pretty cool, and the audience really seems to dig it. So since he knew that I was leaving for NRA annual meeting, he's like throws in this, vote for Adam Kraut, screams like a maniac in the microphone. And so I was like, okay, cool. And then when I got off the podcast, like, I didn't say it on air, because I didn't want to. We were trying to wrap up, but I didn't know who Adam Kraut was, right? I had seen the little ads, vote for Adam Kraut,
Right.
NRA Board of Directors, right? But I had no sort of context. And so
Sure.
we get off the phone, and we get off the podcast and drive back to my house, call him on the phone. I'm like, who's Adam Kraut?
Who is that guy?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, well, he's got a YouTube channel. Look him up. All right, YouTuber. All right, no problem. And so I didn't even think about it until the next day when I was getting ready, a couple hours later when I was getting ready to travel. I was waiting in the airport, and so I looked you up on my phone, had my earphones on, and you've got a ton of videos out there, first of all. You do them for the Gun Collective.
Yes.
Right? And I went into this hole, Adam, because it's not like the usual we're in the backyard and we're going to shoot some hubcaps kind of thing, which is
Not at all.
which is what I think a lot of people expect from YouTubers nowadays, especially in this industry.
Absolutely.
But so you actually have a formal background in law.
Yes.
Right?
I'm a practicing attorney.
You're a practicing attorney, and you do YouTube videos,
Yep.
right? And you teach people about the law as it applies to the firearms industry.
Yeah. Well, not just the industry, but I guess the 30,000-foot overview of that was I've been friends with John at the Gun Collective for years. Before the Gun Collective was a thing, we've been friends from the car scene. And
oh, cool.
Like, he was starting to get into guns, and we went shooting for the first time together.
I did cars for a long time too, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
We went shooting like 7 or 8 years ago, and that was the first time that anything gun-related brought the two of us together. And then he did his own thing, and then the Gun Collective became a thing. And one day I was ranting about people on Facebook, and essentially just that. I was so tired of the spread of bad information. And
right.
at this point, I'd been working at a gun shop for a while. I've been on internet forums, in Facebook groups, and I was just so tired of people perpetuating bad information because, well, the guy behind the counter told me, or my grandfather told me, and you know how that goes, and people don't ever bother to look to see what's what. So I wrote up a post on Facebook about how I just couldn't stand it anymore, and he sent me a message, hey, I got an idea. And a week later, we were off and running filming the first episode of The Legal Brief, which was the one on ATF 41F, which was happening at the time, and that was, if you're not an NFA guy, so you don't do silencers or SBRs and stuff, that was the regulatory change in relation to legal entities, mainly trusts, and the requirements that for paperwork that would have to be submitted for those. So that's kind of where it started, and the idea originally was to explain really just laws, and I told him very quickly up front that I don't think we can do this weekly. I think we'll be out of content in a month or two. And here we are. I think the last episode I did was number 90 before I left for this. Yeah, so we're 90 episodes later. And
as a weekly thing?
For the most part, as a weekly thing every once in a while. And I'm trying to get better about stacking episodes every once in a while, or when SHOT Show happens and whatnot. yeah, I saw the look on your face. Yeah, I know all about that life. It's been more or less weekly. So yeah, it's a weekly show, and now it's kind of evolved more so from just explaining the current federal laws to explaining what bills that are being attempted to be passed. Wow, if I could speak today, that'd be fantastic.
It is the fourth day of a 4-day show, so forgive us.
But both at the federal and state levels, laws that have been signed or bills that have been signed into law at the federal and state level. So we're trying to get everything, and not every episode is going to be of interest to people, especially if they're not residents of a state where that is in fact where they live.
Well, first of all, it's really cool, and I've gone through like a lot of things of, there's a lot of adjacent things to 3-gun that I'm interested in as well that I don't talk a lot about on the podcast.
Okay.
Because I don't feel that I personally have the knowledge to discuss it, so I don't talk about self-defense.
Sure.
I don't talk about shooting people in the face because I'm not law enforcement, not military, I'm not a trainer.
Nor am I.
I don't have background. Right. But I also don't discuss like law stuff.
Okay.
So I stick to like the sporting end of it, competition shooting as well. So, and the way I've always looked at it is like, there's legs of the tripod, right? There's the guys that are keeping us safe. There's the self-defense crowd, that's one leg. And then there's the legal end. There's the guys that do that really well. And then there's like the sporting end, which is what I'm holding up. And all that is needed for a good, healthy firearms community, and working together is like the best way to do it. But I love the content from guys like you, because since I don't have that legal background, you put it in like words that I can understand. Well, and you read like the actual language, and then you interpret it for me.
And that was the whole idea, because there's times, quite honestly, and I do this for a living, and my area of practice is strictly firearms related, so both federal and state, Pennsylvania only, but I'm only dealing with firearms issues. And there's times where I'll read a bill, for instance, or a law, and I'm like, what the heck does this mean?
Right.
And I have to go back and read it a couple times before I'm able to fully understand or comprehend it, or because it cites to some other section of the law. Now I've got like eight tabs on my browser open, and I'm trying to bounce between them to see, okay, well, this is defined as this, and this is referencing that, and it just sometimes becomes a real headache to figure this stuff out. So the idea was, and I have legal training. Not to say people can't do that, because there's certainly people who can, but the idea was to take that and put it into very simple terms that everybody can understand. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm lucky in the sense that I'm able to do that. I know plenty of lawyers who are way smarter than I am. They're brilliant people that they couldn't talk to the average person and put it in terms that they could understand.
Yeah.
And, they could explain it to another lawyer, and quite frankly, other lawyers will look at them like they have four heads. I deal with that on a somewhat regular basis, and, I'm like, well, okay. And then, to be able to distill down complex information into a simple, easy-to-digest form was really the goal of it. And the fact that even here at Triggrcon, I have people come up to me saying that not only do they love the show, but that they've learned things.
Yeah.
That is what the whole purpose was. And every time that somebody tells me that validates the amount of time and effort I put into it, because that was my goal, was really just to educate people. And the fact I'm able to accomplish that seemingly on a regular basis is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I have not met someone who has consumed part of your content or all your content and said like, yeah, F that noise, it's not worth your time. It's some people. I'm sure you get that because there is the internet and we get all that all the time. But I don't find that there's I've run into anyone that's like, yeah, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That wasn't helpful, or
no. I some people don't necessarily like the meme. So like the other thing, if you end up going and checking me out, if you don't already watch, which is fine, is you'll see like there's memes used in the videos. Like, I mean, we're talking about law. How interesting can it be, right?
Well, and you guys spice it up and make it fun,
Right. Well, and a lot of I write all the episodes. I read through them with John. So sometimes he'll have questions or say, can we explain this a little better, and I'll just explain it to him. He goes, that's what we need to use, as you just told me that. Let's put that in there. But like a lot of the humor's mine, but the meme selection comes from our editor, who's fantastic. People there were people complaining about the crush part up front. They thought it was childish. So, I don't take crap from most people or anybody really. So what we did was we filmed me doing that sequence in a bunch of different places around John's house and put it at the front of the next episode for that particular person as a, like giant middle finger.
Nice.
I like to have fun with it, but at the end of the day, it is the goal is to provide information to people that they're able to utilize, and hopefully give to others and help correct that misinformation that's out there. There has been 1 or 2 instances where I have misspoken, and I did go back and I actually did just an episode as to the corrections of that, because I tell people the other thing I do is I put the source material in there for you guys to go look at.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of people who claim to be authorities or people that will just tell you that this is X, Y, or Z, but they'll never point you to where that came from.
Yep.
So I give people the ability, if they want to go look. And if I'm wrong, call me out on it. I'll be the first person to admit that I'm wrong if I truly am, and I'll fix it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the important thing is getting the information correct, not being right or wrong, right?
Right. Well, yeah, and I try to always be correct, but there's been once or twice where I have misstated something or the way I said it didn't quite come out right.
Right.
And I had to go back and kind of clarify that. But I always provide the source material, particularly when we're talking about actual laws, so that people can go look and see what the law itself says.
Right. Well, and the thing, you said earlier about state level that doesn't necessarily apply to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like that you cover that part, because states and like the demons that are trying to take away our gun rights,
mm-hmm.
they do look at other states for models, right?
Absolutely.
The best example that I can think of is we're here in Washington.
Yep.
I come from Colorado.
Okay.
And almost verbatim, the gun magazine bans and the transfer laws that were proposed here in Washington were the ones that were passed in Colorado. Yeah,
yep.
Almost verbatim. And it's like, hello, people, like, pay attention. Like, this can spread. Don't look at Colorado and point and laugh.
Right. Well, I mean, you look at the red flag laws that are being tossed up now. In Jersey signed them into law recently. Illinois signed them into law, and the language may not be verbatim, but
mm-hmm.
it's very similar language in pretty much all of them as to...
Explain the red flag laws.
So the red flag laws are essentially the law is to allow people to petition a court without the other party present, saying that they're a danger to themselves or others.
Mm-hmm.
If the court believes that that's the case, they'll issue an ex parte order, meaning without the party who it's against being there for this. That order then is for them to relinquish their firearms. The way most of these bills have been structured is that a hearing has to be held within 2 weeks, where the court will then hear the person who the order was against, along with the person who was looking for that order to be issued, and then decide whether or not that should stay in effect. And they vary in length. Some are 6 months, some are a year, and then there's the ability to have it renewed. But essentially, you could have your firearms rights taken from you because somebody else goes into court, at least temporarily taken from you because somebody else goes into court, says you're a danger to yourself or others,
right,
and provides some evidence to support that.
That seems like it's against the several amendments in the Bill of Rights.
Well, there's a huge problem with due process with that one.
Right.
So, and that's been the argument that's been being had before these have been passed. Pennsylvania had a bill that was very similar, that was in committee, where both myself and my boss and a number of other people testified against it. Obviously, the Ceasefire PA and the Giffords group testified for those things. So, yeah, I mean, it is becoming more of a state-by-state fight than it is at a federal level. I don't think at the federal level, I think it's unlikely you'll see any kind of major action one way or the other, both pro or anti-gun. But I think at the state level, as you can clearly see, like, there are states that are taking actions that are, not positive for firearms rights at all.
Right. Now, do you see the inaction on the federal level, or at least the lack of attempt, because we have a Republican president who appears to be gun friendly, or do you think that's just like they've found success on the state level and they think that, this is our best avenue for for success?
That's an interesting question. I certainly wouldn't call Trump a Republican president.
Considering he was a Democrat.
Yeah,
right
considering he was a Democrat right up until when, I mean, he's said things that are concerning, especially if we're talking about red flag laws. He's particularly has said take guns first, due process second. Not only is that offensive for firearms, but just generally due process in general there.
Yeah.
But
offensive for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, it's offensive for a lot of reasons. I don't know if it's because they see success at the state level they wouldn't try it, because if they get it at the federal level, then it's game, set, match. We're good. So I think that they are seeing that they can make strides at the state level, and the other side of it, and not to bring marijuana into it, but I think they're comparable in this regard. You see a bunch of states with at least medical marijuana legalizing it. Now there's
Colorado, Washington.
Right. There's now even Pennsylvania just recently, and now there's a majority of states, I think it's 29, that have legalized it. So in my mind, it's only a matter of time before the feds are going to have to take some form of action to at least legalize it for medicinal purposes, because you have the majority of the states saying that we think it should be legal. Meanwhile, it's illegal at the federal level. Likewise, I can see we can now take this back to guns, and we can have that same conversation where if you get enough states that are going through and making things illegal, and you can take that in now. Well, their federal representatives can go to Congress or the Senate and say, well, we need to make changes at the federal level. And if enough of them agree,
what the states want,
right? Well,
air quotes.
And if enough of them agree, or enough states have done it, then I can see that potentially leading down that same road as you see with marijuana.
Right. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. So so I lived in Texas for a year, and they love to make fun of everyone else that's not in their nation.
Sure. Yes,
which is the rest of America.
Yes, yeah, they're very particular about that.
They are. And so I took it, and everywhere I've traveled all across the U.S. shooting matches and stuff like that, they give me a hard time from being from Colorado, right? And especially right after the magazine ban, I went to Montana, and one of my greatest experiences was this guy telling me that I could stay and leave my money, but I had to go when I was done with the match.
Yeah, and, right. Because politically, I totally agree with everything that happens.
Yeah, bro, I'm standing in the dirt shooting with you. But the best part of it was at the end of the weekend, I realized that he had come from Montana back in the '80s, and he came from Denver. He's like, I got out when it got too bad. When was that? '86. So that culture is definitely there, and people like to look at other states like California. And I did it for from Colorado for a long time. Like, just get out.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's more important than ever to stay and fight.
Yeah. It's a tough call. I think a lot of this fight is going to be done in the courts. In particular, you look at states like California. California is probably like the foremost example of it. They're just rabidly anti-gun.
Mm-hmm. And seemingly more anti-freedom in general.
Yeah, in general. Part of the problem that you see, Gunpocalypse is a great example of this. With Gunpocalypse, this was back in 2016. There were a series of bills that were proposed. I can't remember if they were proposed or if they were done by like a ballot proposition.
Mm-hmm.
There was a drive by individuals within the firearms community to collect enough signatures, and I think that would have resulted in those being removed from the ballot, or if I recall correctly. I forget what the number of signatures was, but compared to the total number of gun owners in the state, it was like infinitesimally small. Gun owners, if they had been paying attention and cared and engaged, that should have been done in like a week.
Right.
Without a problem. Gun shops had it in their shops. There were people, I heard stories from people that I spoke with, that they offered to drive people to go get their signature on that petition, and they fell short. And I think some of this is to blame on gun owners. Everybody likes to rattle their sabers and say that the left is coming for your guns, which I think is a total sham anyway. But you have complacency, really, is what it is. You have people that expect others to do the work for them, to protect their rights. They won't lift a finger to do it, and then when it disappears, they get all angry. Well, like, dude, pick up the phone, be involved. It takes 5 minutes, and we were talking about this in the booth the other day. But it's what I said what I constantly preach to people is be involved. Contact your politicians. You may not think it doesn't matter. It does, and it doesn't take a lot of time. I've posted pictures of my call logs where I've contacted my federal and state representatives, senators, and it's been 5 minutes. You don't have 5 minutes during the course of a day to do that? You drive to work, don't you? You can do it then. You can do it when you get home. The excuses are just, they're not practical.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like even if you have someone who's negative to your cause, like I did when I was in Colorado, you at least get on their call log, right? They have to log everyone that comes in and say like what the topic was about, or pro-gun, anti-gun, whatever.
They still may vote the same way at the end of the day, but at least you did something.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said for putting in at least the effort to do that. And unfortunately, I don't think enough do. I think enough people are just kind of they throw their hands up in the air and whatever.
Right. Well, and so do you call up and yell at your representatives? Is that rattle sabers? Is that the best way to do it?
No. Be polite. Be respectful. The person on the other phones on the side is just a staffer. They just work there. Like they're a person too. They may not agree with you. Their job is to log information. I always just call and tell them they either support this bill or oppose that bill, and you give them your information because they want to make sure that you're a constituent, obviously. Because if you're not, then they don't really need to care what you think because you're not possibly voting for them in the next election. And that's really it. You can get a little more into detail if you want, but at the end of the day, the person on the other side of the phone really isn't going to be looking to relay, this long, complex message to the senator or representative, because it's just going to be more so that we looked at our tallies here, and X number of people called and supported this, X number of people called and opposed it. And again, it may not matter for certain people, but just pick up the phone and call.
Well, a lot of times I think there's a culture in the firearms industry or gun culture as it is of maintaining like a low signature, right? Like,
I don't want to be on a list.
I don't want to be on a list. I don't want to be on the list because I own guns, so I only buy private sale and so I don't call my legislator. I won't sign my name to a petition or something like that.
Right.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, come on, man. Really? And by man, I don't mean you. I mean like this hypothetical person that actually does exist somewhere, but isn't sitting in front of me. Really, come on, you don't want to be on a list. I mean, I guess maybe it's different for me because my face is plastered all over the internet.
Yeah, same here.
It's not. Yeah, So you, but really, you don't want to be on a list. So what are you going to do? Bury your gun in your backyard?
Right.
I mean, seriously.
And then what?
Yeah, you're going to go shoot it? When?
Well, and that's what I always think about with, like the California example. Well, okay, so to finish that thought off, those guys probably also buy bulk carrier groups on Brownells with their credit card, right?
Oh, probably,
Come
yeah.
on, man.
Yeah.
So, like your bank doesn't give all that information to the government?
Well, but it's just one of those things that I can't possibly comprehend how that's a good idea. It's the guys that will say, they'll hide things or – if they, for instance, bump stocks. Well, if they ban bump stocks, I'm just going to keep mine.
Yeah.
Well, unless you live on private property, you're not going to go to the range and shoot that thing. There's some practical implications here. So what? It's just going to sit in the ground for the next 100 years, or
Well, and I think about that with California gun owners too. Like they put the dorsal fin on their grip, right? And it's like, well, they can't take my AR. It's like, bro, they're taking it one piece at a time. And you're still submitting to the man, but then there's the other guy who, has his AR-15 in full glory, and when I cross the border, all I got to do is flip this thing around, and then now it's not
anymore.
Exactly. So there's that whole thing, but it's like you're still submitting. So and you're, even if you're in protest, like what are you going to do with that?
You as a single individual, nothing other than potentially get arrested.
Yeah, exactly. And then what?
Oh.
What's your family going to do?
Yeah,
you can't fight from the inside because now you're a criminal.
Or
you're not taking seriously.
You die. Your family's now in possession of that stuff.
Yeah.
Then what?
There's been a lot of people that have gone to jail in California for some dude dying and then finding thousands of guns in their house.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. So I want to back up to something you just said a minute ago, bump stocks.
Yep.
So in the 3-gun community, when the bump stock ban or or proposed legislation. And to be honest, like, I personally don't give a shit about bump stocks. I think they're stupid. However, it still is, something that it sucks we have to defend this hill, but that is our hill, right?
Yep.
So that's my stance on it. But I saw a lot of people perceiving it to be like a slippery slope for a ban on competition triggers, because we have 2 pound, 3 pound triggers, and
rate
it
increasing
increases our
devices.
fire.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, look, the bump stock thing, I've been very vocal about. It needs to be fought. It needs to be defended. And it's not because I own a bump stock, and it's not because I think bump stocks are cool. In fact, until we filmed a slow motion video for a comment that was submitted in opposition for it, I had never seen a bump stock. I borrowed one specifically for that video. First time I've ever shot one, and it'll be the last time I ever shoot one, because I don't want one.
What'd you think?
Fun range toy, I guess, if you're into watching your ammunition just drain out of a magazine at a high. If you like machine guns, then you'd probably like one. But I shoot machine guns like twice a year because I can't afford to shoot them constantly.
Same here.
And usually it's somebody else's dollar, so like cool.
If anyone wants to offer me a go at a minigun, I'm down.
I'm down, but you're paying for the ammo.
I'm not going to pay for that opportunity.
So I think that with the way things are worded, I think that is potentially a very slippery slope to be going down, and without clarity as to definitions or things like that, then you have problems where it very well could potentially overflow or bleed over into other things that you guys use in sport. Other guys just put on their guns because they like lighter triggers, and when you get into ambiguous terms, it really ultimately either becomes up to the agency to interpret what that term meant, and there's a lot of deference there, or for the courts. And now you're really opening Pandora's box. Well, my definition of rate increasing may be very different from yours, and when there's no given rate of a firearm, how do you, are you taking the machine gun version of the firearm to determine what the rate of fire is of the semi-automatic version and saying, okay, well, that applies to this even though it doesn't function automatically? Like, how do you figure that out?
I know. Like, I know guys that can work a single, single pull of the trigger faster than some automatic rifles.
Well, everybody points at Jerry Micklick as an example, but I have a very good friend of mine, Jared Ross, who owns Rockwell Tactical. He's a 18 Bravo. He's a Green Beret. That dude can run a mil-spec trigger like it's a machine gun, and his shots are incredibly accurate. I've watched him run guns, and I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. Like, I can't shoot anywhere near that good or fast, but it's amazing. And he's doing it by a single pull of the trigger every single time. Sight picture before, sight picture after. Like, okay, so this device you want to get rid of, like, there's dudes who don't need that, and they're way more accurate.
Yeah.
Like, why are we doing this?
Right, and then so, if someone sees a video of your friend shooting like that, and they want to, take him to court for a rate increasing whatever.
He had a different trigger in there, let's say. Is that a rate increasing device? I don't know.
Right. There's a large... Sorry, sir, we're recording here. That always happens at shows.
Oh, I'm sure.
SHOT Show is horrible.
Yeah. No, I I do a couple podcasts out there, too. Yeah, people walking past.
They want to come talk to you. It's like, we've got microphones, dude. We'll be with you in a minute.
We're live.
Yeah, I don't know where the bathrooms are. God, where was I? Oh, triggers. Yeah, so there's, here within our line of sight, there's probably like 4 trigger companies.
Yes.
Right? And so does that put them out of business if that becomes, the law of the land?
Possibly.
It's
I mean, it could certainly cause them problems.
Yeah, for sure.
It depends on how things are interpreted and or enforced.
Right. Well, and that's the problem with legislation, is that a lot of times they're interpreted different ways, and we see that all the time in, I guess, districts, right? So unfriendly districts versus friendly districts, and all that is in air quotes, of course. And then when it gets to the Supreme Court, it's interpreted like a completely different way a lot of times.
Yeah, so, I mean, essentially, I guess for those that aren't super familiar with how the court system works, if we're talking, especially the federal level anyway, we'll leave this at a federal discussion for that. You have federal district courts. It's the lowest federal court. It's where you go in to sue. Depending upon where you are, some... like Pennsylvania has 3, the middle, the eastern, middle, and western districts. So we have 3 that split up our state. There are other states that have way more. Delaware is a single district. from there, if the case is appealed, it goes up to the circuit court, and the district court decision is only really useful for that district, and it's not even binding on that district. So another judge within that district could come with a entirely different conclusion, and that's kind of it. I found that interesting because I honestly didn't know that.
I did not either until right now.
Yeah, I mean, I learned this a while ago, but I didn't know it at the time. I went, that's okay. Then it goes up to the circuit court. The Federal Circuit Court of Appeals covers a number of different districts. So then, like, for instance, the Ninth Circuit, I don't remember all the states that are in it, but you have California, Hawaii. I believe Alaska's in there, Washington, I think Oregon, Idaho. I don't know if it is, but there's a number of states now that are encompassed, and all the districts within that circuit are encompassed with whatever the circuit court decides. And there's two ways the circuit court decides things. It's either by a panel of judges, which is usually how most cases are. So it's it would be three judges, a three judge panel, or if in the certain cases one of the parties can ask the court, or the court can do it on its own to hear the case en banc, which means before the whole court. And an en banc decision is stronger, if you will, in some ways than a panel one, but they're both binding on lower courts. So, for instance, the Ninth Circuit. No, we'll talk about the Fourth Circuit real quick. The Maryland's assault weapons ban,
right?
That was appealed up to the Fourth Circuit. The panel heard it. Panel reversed the district court's decision, which upheld that ban. The party that lost asked the court to hear it en banc, meaning as a whole. The court as a whole reversed that three-judge panel decision and said, nope, it is constitutional, it's fine, and gave the rationale for it. So that can happen. Then from there, the only other option would be to apply for a writ of certiorari to the Supreme Court. And that's you're petitioning the court to hear your case. And the Supreme Court, as most of you probably know, hears very few cases. And a lot of times it waits to hear cases until different circuit courts have come to different conclusions. So when there's now starting to become a circuit split, so like the First, the Third, and the Fifth say one thing, and the Second, the Fourth, and the Sixth circuits say another thing, and now the law in the country is kind of uneven, and there's no common consensus between the lower courts. That's when a lot of times the Supreme Court will step in and say, no, this is what the law of the land is. So there's, again, uniformity. But none of that happens overnight.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
nerdy stuff. I know.
Yeah. I mean, totally nerdy stuff, but it's like important. You know.
Well, it's your function of government.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I learned a lot about crap in high school, but none of that stuff on like what's important to, actual real life.
Yeah.
So like it's and it Adam, it's amazing age that we live in that guys like you and I can go over to YouTube with our cell phone, speak into it, and send a message out to, thousands, millions of people.
Everybody has a voice these days.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So so before I want to talk about that a little bit. Before we get into that, what should we as firearms owners be paying attention to right now?
Well, I would certainly encourage you to be paying attention to what's going on in your particular home state. I mean, the federal level, I don't think you're seeing any major activity. And right now, right now we're headed into midterm election season, so I think you'll likely see a little bit of a calm. There's certainly, if you look at the campaigns that are being run, and I think we had this discussion yesterday, you're starting to see that there are campaigns being run. Well, he supports, Trump, and he supports gun rights, and I'm, for the safety of the children, and for assault weapons ban. And I think you'll see that through November, and then after the new year, I think is where we're going to start seeing this stuff start all over again. It's not to say that there won't be a push in the interim here, but I think right now politicians are going to be focusing more on being politicians and trying to get reelected or elected to office. Mm-hmm. And then from there, who knows? I mean, if there's a big flip in the House, especially at the federal level, maybe what I said earlier is all out the window, and there very well may be a very big push at the federal level to get stuff done.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting how the same methods that we use to push our agenda and the things that we want, whatever we want, whatever you're talking about, is used by the people that, want to take away firearms rights.
Right.
So just pay attention to what legislation you like, and then that tactic can definitely be used against you tenfold.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely can. I personally subscribe to a number of anti-gun groups email lists, so I can see what they're doing, what they're up to. I mean,
really? I just get really pissed.
Oh, I mean, for what I do, it makes sense. It just keeps me informed. Now, obviously, it's not the backroom discussions that are being had and tactics that are planned out, but if they're doing email blasts about a particular bill or something like that, it keeps me in tune with, okay, well, maybe I need to go out and start being vocal about this with, hey, you guys need to start picking up the phone, calling and telling your representatives that they need to either oppose this bill or support this bill because I see the other side doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a very good point. All right. I'm going to have to create a new email address and subscribe to that junk.
Yeah.
All right. So let's switch up a little bit. We started talking about at the start of the show here, NRA Board of Directors.
Yes.
Why do you think that why do you want to be on the NRA Board of Directors?
Well, I had interesting question. So
I know.
I'm friends with a few of the directors that currently sit on the board, and it was through conversations with one of them that he essentially said, I think you would be a good board member. You're young, you have ideas. The organization has some institutional reluctance to change. Demographic-wise, I believe personally that the NRA is, cutting off its nose to spite its face. It's taking a direction where it's trying to appeal to. I guess this goes back to the right and left thing I kind of alluded to earlier, where it says there's this war that the left is waging against you, and it's very divisive. Where I think it could encompass more members if it were more just like, this wasn't a right-left thing. This is a gun rights thing.
Yeah,
and that's all the NRA should be talking about is gun rights. If you're going to be out there, because you're a gun rights organization, I don't care about what your views are on abortion and gay rights and things like that when it comes to the NRA itself, because the NRA shouldn't be entering those discussions. It has no place in them.
And I see that. I see that as well. I see that they're trying to appeal to what the demographic they think is their constituency, right?
Yes.
But when I talk to people candidly, like, for some reason people, so okay, you probably get this too. They understand, like, I'm in media. They understand I talk for a living.
Sure.
But they want to candidly tell you their secrets.
Yeah.
You get that too?
Yeah, sometimes.
And it's like, bro, I'm the last guy you're supposed to be telling this to.
Well,
but a lot of people have come out to me as like, I don't want to say this or anything, but I have a lot of liberal leanings, and I'm here in the dirt and we're shooting matches with people. And
that's fine, man.
It is totally fine. Like, and I don't know, why does someone have to come out like that? That's what I don't understand. It's like there's room for everybody.
They shouldn't have to do that. I've had this conversation like 8 times while we've been here at Triggrcon. There was a really interesting article I read that I reposted. I'll repost it, I guess, on like the public figure page or whatever. But essentially, there was 2 individuals I think one's working on a doctorate that they looked at. I forget what the theory's called, but it essentially is that you have 2 different fringe groups on either side. You have the far left, the far right, and you have a whole bunch of people that are in the middle. And the far left and the far right are very, very vocal about their positions and that the other side can't possibly be right. And because these people in the middle feel like they need or want to belong to a part of a group, they publicly may say that they believe X, whatever side that is. But realistically, they're in the middle going, you're both stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you guys are just dumb. There's room for coexisting here. And certain things, certain people won't negotiate on certain things. Like, I think firearms rights are important, and that's not something I'm willing to negotiate on. But I think there is room to have at least a discussion where we can walk away at the end of the day and disagree with one another, and you may understand where I'm coming from, and I may understand where you're coming from, and that's it. We had a conversation. So essentially, you have this middle group that's not saying publicly that, hey, look, you guys chill out,
right?
And as that drift continues to divide, where those fringe sides are now like it's actually that divide's getting greater over time because people are kind of saying, yeah, that's what I think and that's what I think, but they're not actually saying what they think.
Right.
So to go back to your point, I mean, like, if you're at a match shooting with some dude, he's there because he likes shooting. right? We all have something in common with one another, be it other things other than guns, and guns may not be that common link. Like I'm a huge deadhead, and I'll
You get your little teddy bear on.
yeah, and I don't hide that. In the beginning, when I first started running for the NRA, I was like, oh man, like people are probably gonna have a problem with that, and I didn't really. I wasn't super open about it. Like, people who knew me knew. So I was at a Dead and Company concert this past summer, and I was talking to the guy on the lawn behind me, and he asked me what I did for a living, and I made the mistake of telling him exactly what I did for a living. rather than just saying I practice law and I do civil rights litigation. I was like, I practice law, I do civil rights litigation and for firearms. He said, oh, well, were you for or against? I said, for. That's what I do. I represent individuals and manufacturers at the federal and state level. And he's immediately, well, I don't think anybody should own an AR-15. Cool, man. I do. I think people should be able to own machine guns. I can tell you right now, you and I are not going to agree on this topic. But we both enjoy the music that's here. Why don't we find other things to talk about? Because I'm not changing your mind. I know that. And if you can't possibly be so foolish as to think you're going to change my mind.
Right.
So why don't we just talk about something else? Like, we're not going to have a common ground on that topic. But we both like what's happening here. We're both having fun. We were talking about food 5 minutes ago. Food was great, right? So there are things, and I think both sides are very guilty of not being willing to chat with one another about things. You'll probably find if you talk to other people, you have a way more in common with them than you think.
Oh, for sure.
You just got to talk to them.
Yeah.
And this whole identity politics thing, I think, is it's damaging society in the long term.
I think it is too.
And I don't know how you, short of people taking it upon themselves to become people again, I don't know how you fix that.
I like that we're able to talk about it, especially in different forums. One thing I reference all the time is Joe Rogan, right?
Yep.
You say something about Joe Rogan, you can immediately draw like a corollary, right? So for you, for example, like I said, like, well, this is a Joe Rogan style podcast. Like, so now it's not like, hey, welcome to the Three Gun Show with Dave Harmon. It's just going to be like a conversation. So I'll mention that to people in the firearms industry, and it's interesting the reaction you get because Joe Rogan smokes weed, he's done mushrooms, he's done LSD,
but he had fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's
lived life a little bit.
He's lived a good life. He also eats ice cream. So
look, you have something in common. Most likely, I like ice cream. Do you like ice cream?
I love ice cream.
See?
Ice cream is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't like fighting. I don't like MMA.
Not my thing.
Not my thing at all. But I understand that why it's appealing to people on like a human level. Yeah. But I can still listen to the conversations that he has with his guests and learn something from it.
Yep.
So that I always feel is like divisive. It's like if you're really into MMA and you shoot competition shooting and you have like a bunch of right-wing sort of ideals, it's okay to like Joe Rogan because he smokes weed,
I don't. Yeah, I mean, what somebody chooses to do with their own personal life, unless it's affecting you, or they're actively like, if since we're talking about weed again. If Joe Rogan was out there, if you have a problem with weed, and Joe Rogan was out there telling your child, like, go smoke weed, X, Y, Z, yeah, I could see you having a problem with that. But if the dude is not doing that, and that's just what he happens to do in his own personal life, like, what do you care, man? Yeah. Is he hurting you?
Yeah.
And do you go to the bar and drink? Like, maybe I don't like you because you drink. Do you get behind the wheel? Like, well, do you want to go down this rabbit hole? We can go.
Exactly. Like, his drug is okay because.
Right.
Or, excuse me, his drug is not okay because it grows in the ground. Your drug's fine because you can buy it at a football stadium.
And because the government says that one is okay and one's not.
Right. And so for me, like where I was going with that is like, when you talk about identity politics, you have the left and the right. I look at it as like a triangle. Like, there's the left, the right, and then there's me over on the other side looking at them and going like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
So that's my personal beliefs, and the first time I've talked about it on the show in almost 3 years. But so I want to get back to the NRA Board of Directors because we kind of went down.
Sorry.
No, totally fine. But so again, when Adam Maxwell mentioned NRA Board of Directors, I don't feel that it's worth voting for because I was like, okay, so I'm gonna vote this FUD Adam Kraut into a
super
group,
FUD
exactly into this group with more FUDs, And then that's when I discovered your content, and I was like, holy shit, like this guy said he likes machine guns. I'm totally in. And
he's relatable.
yeah, honestly, like when you were talking about the SIG brace and you explained all that, I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting, and it's information that I need to know.
Sure.
But again, you dropped it in like just a small comment, like a cast-off comment in one of your episodes of, I think everybody should have machine guns. And I was like, whoa. That guy said it, and it's okay to say it, and he's running for the NRA Board of Directors, and so I purposely went and figured out how to go vote and everything, and I actually did. But so tell me about like how all that went down, and obviously your beliefs are way different from the content that I've consumed. Your beliefs are way different than the current Board of Directors. Like they're very stodgy, they're very stoic. I think they're drastically fucking everything up for the firearms industry, excuse my language, but I really think that the NRA is going in a bad direction. So
we can curse on this? Sweet. No.
We can do one per.
One per?
Sorry,
okay.
I stole it from you.
No. Oh, one per. So total. All right. Well, then bleep. No, it's an interesting question. So I don't think that's necessarily true of every member of the board of directors.
Sure.
I think
that's my outside.
Sure.
View. I don't know anyone personally.
Okay. There are some very good people that are on the board that work very hard, that do believe a lot of the same things I do, and they do want to see the organization change its directions. They recognize it. Some of them are older, some of them are younger, and there's some smack dab in the middle. Mm-hmm. The problem is a number of things, including that the board is very large by design. You try to get 3 people to agree on something, that's a problem. You get 76 people to agree on something, like, good luck.
Yeah, no shit.
Right?
You can't even decide where you want to go for lunch.
Right, yeah. I mean, free. Well, we're going to go to this city. We are? Okay. So I think there's some problem there. You look at also just the election process and the way information, I was staring at a Wayne LaPierre's face glaring at me through that case over there.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's like Wayne staring at us. I'm going to take a photo of that.
Okay. So the other part of the problem is just the process. So one of the things that people have said to me over the last 2 years, even while we've been here, has been that until I ran, nobody really had a conversation about any of it. And
yes.
After I decided I was going to run, I ran by petition both times. So petition to the members. There's 2 ways you get on the ballot. Petition to the members, where you go collect signatures from voting members, so life or better, annual member the past 5 consecutive years or more. They're the only people that can vote in these elections, and they're in the mail ballot, rather, and they're the only people that can sign petitions. So out of those 5 million members, I think there are 6, whatever it is now, there were like 2.2 million voting members, and who knows how many of them are dead. So I ran by that. The other way is by nominating committee. The nominating committee, you have to have your name submitted before them. I forget how many applications they get. They go through and then they pick. And there's obviously favorites in that group.
Right.
People
a lot of cronyism.
Yeah. Quite candidly, yes, there is. There are some people that do get nominated by the committee that are do stand up and think for themselves for sure. And there are others that just go along with the program. They like being on the board.
Just like collect a paycheck and
there's no
vote
paycheck.
how they're told to be.
There's no paycheck. Yeah, it's not a paid position.
Well, now it's confusing.
Yeah, so it's not a paid position. Board members are compensated for like the travel. Comped for like board meetings for the hotel, and I think that's about it. I don't know about food. But it's not paid. There are a few board members that get paid, but they aren't paid for being a board member. They're paid for other services they provide to the organization. So like Ted Nugent, for instance, gets paid for appearances, but not because he's a board member, but because that's separate. So then totally just train of thought has been wrecked here.
Sorry, man.
No, it's okay. I went off on a tangent.
Get excited.
So you have this large board. It's hard to get people to agree on things. The process of the way you get on the ballot is not easy. And then on top of that, you're only given 150 words and a biographical sketch to describe yourself. Describe yourself, not describe what you think the organization should be doing, not what you believe the way direction it should go. It's just what your accomplishments are. Okay.
Right.
Well, and you can't put a website there. So you can't direct people elsewhere. So unless somebody decides that they're going to go and attempt to learn more about you on their own, that's what you get, 150 words to describe yourself. And, when people, I have a feeling that when a lot of people don't see you nominated by, the nominating committee or nominated by committee next to your name, it's a strike against you. Well, they weren't nominated by committee, but in reality, these people have no idea how to get on the ballot even works.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize that you can either be nominated by committee or by petition, and that one isn't necessarily indicative of being better than the other. I had to go this past time and get, I think the number was like 697, and it sounds tiny when you're talking about the NRA, but you try and collect 600 some signatures from people all across the country that fill out the things wrong, haven't been a member since 1992, and all of a sudden, that becomes a very daunting number. It's all on paper. You can't do it online, so it's all on paper.
Oh, nice.
It's got to be and it used to have to be on legal paper, which was even worse because people would send you 8.5 by 11, and you'd be, that doesn't count. I got to either mail this person back the proper form, or just let this one go. So you have that problem. And then after all of that, you have the election. So people vote based on what they see. Everybody has said to me the last 2 years, I can't believe you didn't get elected. I saw you everywhere. Well, yeah, you may have seen me, but the guy who picks up the magazine and actually votes may not be on YouTube, may not be on Facebook. Probably has no idea who the hell I am.
And that's the thing that blew my mind is, you have a platform, a voice, you have a following that you can actualize,
Yes.
So how does a guy with a magazine, it's a weird place for a dog.
It's perfect. Dogs of Triggrcon.
How does a guy that, has an ad in a magazine win? Are there the old guard voting from a magazine?
They don't have ads in the magazine. You want to talk about an ad in a magazine and how much that costs?
Yeah.
To do it in the American Rifleman for a tiny ad, a small one, that's not going to be anywhere near the ballot in that magazine. You're looking at $40,000.
Oh my God.
I don't have $40,000 to spend. If I did, I can tell you what I wouldn't spend it on. That. So it's just based on the sketch that you get. People vote, and then it is what it is. And then the other way you can be elected, there's a 1-year term, the 76th seat that I ran for both times at the annual meeting. That's voted on by members at the meeting. The only requirement for that is you had to be a member for greater than 50 days prior to the meeting. So that's pretty much everybody that goes to those things, except the guy who bought the membership at the door to get in to see whatever's there. And that's that. The decision to do it, going back to I guess really the question that was asked at the beginning, the decision to do it was based on a lot of conversation with not only current board member but friends, thinking what can I bring to the organization, because I think the NRA is very important. I don't like the direction it's necessarily headed, and I'm concerned that it's going to really cut off one leg to keep going down the road it's going for what. So I came up with, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to campaign for the position, which nobody had ever done, I don't think, really before. These people don't know who I am, so I have to lay out a case as to why you would want somebody like me on the board. As you said, you're like, well, who's Adam Kraut?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Here's who I am. Here's what I think. This is what I think the organization should be doing, should be looking at, should be doing better. Not to say that they don't do some things really well. And that was kind of that. So I campaigned for it, and I think if nothing else, over the last 2 years, I've certainly raised the awareness of the process. I'm still amazed at how many people have no idea or ask questions that you're like, really? But at the same time, a lot of people have said, hey, I had no idea about that. I learned about this, or, I voted for you, or now I'm engaged. And what I'm really hoping for is that these people will continue to run with this ball, remain engaged, and then other people will see, look, Adam might not have gotten elected, but maybe I can. And start picking up and going at it, and really just starting to try and be involved in an organization that is a members-driven organization at the end of the day. And the last thing I'll say on it, because I think it's really important, when you're not happy with the NRA and you're not happy with what it's doing, you need to not email ILA. You need to not email the headquarters building. You need to contact the board of directors. The idea is that the board is supposed to hold the officers of that organization accountable to you, the members, and you elect that board.
Mm-hmm.
So contact the board of directors. If you're unsure how to do it, in the magazine, there's a thing at the bottom that tells you how. You have to include your membership number so they know you're a member, but you have a voice, use it.
Right.
Let them know that you're pissed about things.
I would also add that if you're not happy, so NRA, like it or not, represents all firearms owners.
Yep.
And if you're not happy with it, saying F you and abandoning it is not the way to go.
Right.
Because then you have 0 vote, 0 voice.
Right.
So
and
continuing to be a member and, like you said, being active and contacting the board of directors is a much smarter way to go.
Well, the other part of that, I mean, that's a really good point, is that the number of people who participate in the elections, it was like 136,000 people who voted. I forget how many votes I lost in the mail ballot this year, but like, it's not a significant margin. And if all these people who are just, well, screw them, actually stood up, participated, and people started living, well, I think I can do it, you may have a very different looking organization. It just requires you guys to be involved.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. And, you know, I read your campaign information, and that was, you know, I directly stole that from you. But it's one of the things that made me go and vote, and along with, you know, your ideas and, I guess, vision for the board more closely being aligned with mine than most of the other board.
Well, and
I'm encouraged about some of the people that got elected.
Well, and time will see. You know, I the one thing I never said was that I would be elected and, you know, walk in the room and say, all right, you guys have been doing it all wrong. This is how we're going to do it. And that's what would happen. Because that's incredibly dumb to actually think, first of all.
Yeah.
Second part being...
It's not how you affect change in an organization.
Well, not only that, but they're not doing everything wrong. They're doing some things wrong. They're doing some things very right. I don't know where I was going with that.
There's dogs here.
I know.
understand.
I got totally distracted.
They're so cute. They're just like lying down. They want to play with each other, but they're not being allowed to. Well, okay. So, as far as like are you going to run again?
As of this year, for this coming year, no. I'm not. The one thing it did do was it chewed up into a lot of my personal life. I spent God knows how many hours either doing campaign-related stuff, responding to comments on forums, Facebook, YouTube, emails, phone calls, meeting people at events, which that part I really do enjoy the interaction with other people.
Sure.
I love meeting people and chatting with them. But I need a break. I did it 2 years in a row. In addition to like spending financial resources to do some of this, and it's taken a lot out of me. I need a little bit of a mental health break. I may attempt it again in the future. I may not. I haven't decided on that part, but for this coming year, no. There is a gentleman, Luke Crawford, who is...
Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he shoots 3 guns.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I've met him several times in several different states.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Luke has decided that he was going to throw his hand in to run by petition of the members, so I would encourage all you guys, 3-gun shooter, there you go.
Yeah.
To go give him a look. If you're an NRA member, contact him to get a petition to sign one for him to get him on the ballot. Do what you guys can to get him elected. I think I've talked with Luke. I've known Luke on and through various things, and I think he's a good dude with his head on straight and squared away, and I think he would be a good choice for you guys.
And he actually has political history, too,
yes.
of affecting change at his college successfully as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so
that's great to hear.
That would be my plug here as somebody you can look forward to support, and I've done it publicly before, and I continue to do it. So yeah, as of right now, for this coming year, no. Possibly in the future, we'll see what the future brings.
So how about the future as a whole for you? Where do you see like your career in say the public eye? Because you know you have your day job,
sure,
for lack of a better term, but you have what you do professionally, and then you have what appears to be
unprofessional.
I was not going to go there. I was going to say recreational.
That's cool. I did. Self-deprecating humor is my thing.
Totally stealing that one, by the way. But yeah, the with Gun Collective and stuff like that. So you've got a lot going on. When I saw that you're running for the NRA Board of Directors, Gun Collective, and then I found out that you're like an actual practicing attorney.
Yep.
I was like, damn, I'm not doing enough. Like this guy's like.
Oh, I'm doing too much.
You are, dude. When do you sleep?
Sometimes.
So what's like the future hold for you? Do you have any like big goals that you want to do in our field in the firearms industry?
No. No, I don't.
Well,
and of course, and of course, you guys can't see my facial expressions and like my head laying back on the chair when I go, no. No, I don't have anything that's set in mind. I'm always looking for opportunities. The one thing I do enjoy is, especially as time goes on, is being in front of the camera and I don't want to say being a spokesperson, but that kind of relationship of explaining things to people through video media. And even audio is cool too. But I enjoy that more so than the slogging in the trenches of like writing briefs and citing case law. And fortunately, I don't find myself in court very often, so I don't actually have to argue in front of judges because oral argument sucks and they usually stare at the ceiling when I do it. But true story. First oral argument I ever had to go for a case that I represented my boss in for a right to know law request in Pennsylvania. The judge stared at the ceiling while I spoke the entire time, and that being my first experience in a courtroom arguing, that'd
have been really hard.
It was really hard. I had worked hard to prepare for it, and it was like the guy just didn't care. I'm like, wow, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah.
So no, I don't have any big like grandiose plans. I just like being me. As you've probably figured out, I'm kind of a goofy dude and I'm laid back, relaxed. I'm approachable. No, I don't have any big plans.
So you don't have like any like, okay, well, long term before I kick the bucket, like I want to make machine guns legal. I want concealed carry everywhere.
I'm not going to be the guy that does that stuff.
Okay.
I'll be the first person. Like I'm not going to be the guy that does that stuff. I do what I do, and if something comes as a result of it, cool. I don't have any. There's nothing. If that's what you're referring to, like a particular topic that I'm going to pick up and this is going to be my baby and I'm going to make it a thing.
Right.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't. I think some of that is, quite honestly, sheer dumb luck. You just happen to be the guy that gets the right plaintiff, you get the right judge and you get the right set of facts, and it just happens to all fall into place. I don't think that, I don't think there's anybody out there that's, if there is somebody out there thinking that I'm going to be the guy that does this thing, you're probably going to be very disappointed. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not that guy. I know that much.
And so inspirational, motivational speakers not on your list either.
I don't know. There seems to be way more money in that than what I'm currently doing.
Right.
So maybe
you're going to have to change your tone then from you're not going to be the guy to
yeah.
to
See,
you
that
can be the guy.
Well, maybe I'll take a different approach to that, right? So if you're always constantly looking at like the lowest possible threshold, you're always going to be surprised when you surpass it by miles. You're never disappointed. Like, it can't possibly be any worse than this. And then it does get worse, and you're like, well, it can't be any possible.
Yeah. What do they say? Like, expectations. Life is expectations minus reality, and the happiness is in the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, people say, I get accused of being a pessimist, which I'm sure people are also saying, you pessimist, really? Yeah. I get accused of being a pessimist. I'm like, no. I'm a realist.
You're just over optimistic.
Yeah, you optimistic people just don't get the world.
Yeah, that's true.
It's my hipster moment.
Okay, let's talk about let's go back to content creation. So
sure.
You said that you need to do a better job of batch recording.
I said that?
You did.
Oh, darn. Yes.
So your content, so it's produced on a weekly basis.
It is.
And is it just like a constant, like, oh shit, we got an episode coming up, like Tuesday it's coming out, we gotta.
First of all, you've now overused the quota of foul words on the podcast.
What did I say there?
You said the S word.
Oh, I said shenanigans?
Yes, only shorter with.
My bad. Sorry, kids.
I would just like to point that out.
Now we got to put an E on the episode.
No, yeah. So it is. It depends. Like, so prior to coming out here, I recorded 2, so that when I go home, I have time to write. And I already, fortunately, there's a couple things that have transpired since I've been, I went backpacking for 5 days, so I didn't see the news. And then since here I've been running around, haven't really seen the news. But there's been other things that have transpired that will lead to a few more episodes that'll be fairly easy to write. But yeah, sometimes it is like I put it off, or I'm busy doing other things that I put it off, and then it becomes like, oh, I got to go to John's today to do our podcast and film an episode, and I should probably start writing this thing because I don't have anything written. So it varies. Sometimes it is a weekly, like, oh my God, and I'm pulling out my hair, and other times I'm like, hey, look, I was prepared. Boy Scouts taught me that.
Yeah. It worked this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. I've done that quite a bit. The weekly content production is not easy.
Oh my God, it's a nightmare.
It really is.
It is, but
Yeah.
the flip side of the coin is like sometimes coming up with topics is also difficult for me.
Mhm.
I'm very fortunate that as of late, I use fortunate in like I guess kind of quotes because unfortunate events have transpired. But fortunately, there's been a lot to kind of discuss. But other times when I'm starting to search for topics and I have to really look for them, like I've written about a bunch of these laws, and maybe I'm not so pumped about having to go read and research this thing so I can produce content on that. And there are points where it is a little bit of a struggle to come up with stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever have a piece of content that you put out and you're like, I don't know, wasn't necessarily my best work, not really proud of that? Or do you feel like everything you put out is like, this is the absolute best I can do?
No, I don't feel that way. There's always room for improvement. But I don't know if there's anything that comes to mind where I could point to and be like, yeah, that one in particular, I was like, oh, not too happy with it. Because generally I like to think I do a decent job, but could I do better? Absolutely. There's no question I could always do better. One of the things that I'm trying to work on for like personal growth is the delivery. It's gotten to the point where now I can kind of hear myself falling into a particular cadence and I try to correct it. And sometimes I don't necessarily know how to. So I've identified that there is a problem and I just don't know how to make that leap from, okay, I'm starting to kind of, it's just the same repetition. All right, I need a break and to change the inflection here, and I just missed that mark.
So I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos outside the industry to see what they're doing as far as like production and everything. Because growing the 3-Gun Show YouTube channel is something that I want to do because the audience has wanted to see these episodes for a long time. So the ones I do over Skype, we've changed that to doing them on YouTube.
Okay.
And now we can broadcast that. It works out well. Haven't quite figured out like a good mobile solution, as you know. So we're only doing the audio right now. But one thing that I've noticed, especially in tech, like camera reviews, Macintoshes and shit like that, stuff like that. There's, like you said, the cadence. There's a YouTube cadence, and it's like, this is the new MacBook Pro, which is of course the 4th in their series.
Right. Please stop that.
Yeah.
Please
holy
stop
cow!
that.
Like everybody,
You could
does
just
that.
speak like a normal human being because you're probably not in front of the camera trying to read a script.
Yeah.
And maybe you are, I don't know, but you could just talk like, hey, this is the new MacBook Pro. It's the 4th generation MacBook that's come out from Apple since the inception of the product. Wow.
Yeah.
Really difficult. Without a script. Adam Kraut, everybody.
Yeah, buddy. Write that down. But yeah, there is a YouTube cadence.
I know
and
exactly what you mean because I've had to listen to it when I was looking for phones.
Yeah.
I was trying to research. My phone was on its way out, and well, do I want a Pixel 2 or do I want something else? And yeah, this is the Google Pixel 2 XL. It's new from Google this year, and oh, cool, man! Like, please stop. Just tell me about the phone, man.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny because everybody does it. It's almost like there was like one guy that was successful on YouTube, and everyone just like copy printed, Control C, Control V, all the way down.
Well,
to
imitation is the highest form of flattery. I'm
yeah,
told.
for sure. All right, so let's talk about the actual production of the content. So take away, interacting with fans, changing lives and stuff like that. Like obviously that's the reason that we do it, is to reach people and spread a message. So what is your favorite part of producing content aside from that?
Wow. Getting to see myself on the internet, obviously. No, I don't know.
Real big fan of me.
Yeah, huge fan. That guy, he sucks. Click the red X.
Can't get enough of me.
I really don't know. I didn't do it for fans. Like I said earlier, I did it for the educational aspect of it. The fact that people think I'm cool, or that like people. I don't want to say people treat me like I'm famous, but people come. It's kind of.
We gushed over you a little bit in the Vortex booth when you came by.
That's stupid. Don't. I'm just like a normal dude walking around, right? Like as you probably found out, like I just hang out like everyone else, and I've been hanging out with you guys for a while actually. Like people come up to me, and I've seen where people have been nervous to talk to me. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, and that's happened to me too.
People are like, you're Adam? Yes. Hi. Oh, I'm a huge fan. Well, what's your name? You're a person, right? What's your name? Why don't you start with, hey, I'm, Gary. Nice to meet you. cool, Gary. Nice to meet you too.
Dude, that's my
Where are you
biggest thing
from?
is like the people never say their name. They're like, "Hey, Dave, it's good to meet you," and then they'll walk away. It's like, "Whoa, who are you, bro?"
Well, yeah. I mean, they stand there, and I'm like, well, what's your name? Oh, I'm Joe. Well, hey, Joe. Nice to meet you,
Right.
man. I like that's really what I enjoy, and it was, I guess, I never thought that this would be as, I guess, big in some ways as it is. I never in a million years thought I would go to like a trade show and people be like, that's Adam Kraut. Like, yeah. Hey.
There he is. Oh, I mean, I am.
Yeah. It's still foreign to me. And I really hate when people treat me like I'm somebody special because I don't consider myself to be special, and I really don't. I'm just a dude who happens to get in front of a camera every week. That I got lucky that I guess if you want to call it lucky, that somebody gave me the means to put my voice out there on a platform that does reach people. And if you guys are consuming that kind of content, awesome. That's fantastic. I'm glad, and I really hope you guys do enjoy it. If you got constructive criticism, I like to hear that stuff too. I mean, it's nice to hear, like, I learned a lot, and I really like what you do. That's cool. But, if you got something like, hey, I think you can make it better by doing this, cool, man. Tell me how to improve it, because we're always looking for ways to do that. And sometimes coming from the dude who's making it the entire time, like, you just don't have the answer.
Oh, for sure. And like early on, there were people like, well, this part really sucks, that part sucks. I'm like, help me. Like, if you know.
Don't tell me it sucks. Tell me why. Well, I mean, tell me why it sucks.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I get that. Sometimes people with our podcast, there were a couple people like, yeah, we don't really like it. Okay, well, what don't you like about it so I can make it better?
Yeah.
That would be helpful. If you're specific, and it's criticism's fine as long as it's constructive. Like, I can take that and run with it. If you just want to be a dick, then well, cool, man. Like, have a good one. See the little red X up there? You can just click that and don't bother leaving a comment because I don't care.
Yeah, and I've gotten a lot of criticism with nothing backing it up. But the like I said, hey, this sucks. It's like, well, help me fix it. Some guys have, and they're like, well, you're this level on your mixers to this way or that way. Turn this knob. Yeah. And there's been amazing people that have helped me out where they're like, just take a picture of your mixer and send it to me. And so I take a picture, and they're like, oh, yeah, this knob here, turn it to there, and all of a sudden everything's amazing.
Yeah,
and
it's a learning experience.
Yeah. But the cool part, so it's totally a learning experience, and I'm open to learning all the time, and that's what the show is all about. But the cool part is, like, the people that are listening get to participate in that, right? It's not just like, NBC where you just throw something at them and expect them to consume it,
Yeah. No, I think, like I said, it was, I never expected it to be as big, if you will, as it is, and I have no idea how big it is. But the fact that people come up to me and thank me for it and are learning, like, that's cool. That was really the point, was for the learning to occur, and if that's what's happening, the rest of it is just like tertiary to it. And it's fun, it's neat, but the learning aspect is really what the point of it was, and that's why I do it. I don't need to see myself on the internet. I can look in a mirror. Oh, look, there he is. He sucks. Still got hair. Okay, good.
Yes. Is there like a piece of content that you wanted to produce but haven't been able to do yet?
No. There's like this is just kind of like I show up and I do this. There's nothing that I'm not a super creative person. I am, but I'm not. There's nothing that I've wanted to do that we haven't done. And again, my stuff really revolves around the legal brief aspect of it. Occasionally I help John with other things, like you'll see me in other videos on the Gun Collective here and there, but for the most part, like, I just do the legal brief and that's it. We'll see what the future brings. I may end up trying to sit down and come up with some other ideas for things, but as far as like the legal brief, its format works. It's a proven product, if you will, and I don't see the need to alter the main gist of it. I think there's improvements that can be made within it, but as far as like the general basic formula, it is what it is, and I don't see that going away. Especially the crush part up front, dude, if you're listening. If you happen to be a 3-gunner, well, now you know how I feel about you.
Are there other avenues that you want to pursue outside the legal brief as far as content creation?
Interesting. on the video format, maybe there are some other things I could see myself doing. I had a lot of fun doing SHOT Show coverage. I had a blast doing that. I thought that was a good time. There are other things as far as content production that I'm starting to do more writing. I'm starting to write more for Recoil. I enjoy that opportunity, and I think that's something I would like to push a little further, because I do have the ability apparently to write pretty well and communicate clearly that way. That's what you get for going to law school and college and all that nonsense.
Stay in school, kids.
Yeah, for me, some of the structure there has been a little bit of a struggle to change from the manner in which I write for legal related stuff to just the individual reading it. Writing a script's one thing because I know I'm saying it orally, and I try to just write how I'm speaking, and occasionally that gets a little wonked. But writing in a manner for a magazine, for instance, is even a little more different than that, because now people are just reading it. So I guess that kind of goes back to personal development. I'm trying to work more on that. There are some ideas I have for I guess a little mini series, if you will, that's gun related, but it's not related to the law aspect of it. It would be I'd like to do something documenting my journey as a beginning long range shooter. I just got a fix from Q.
Oh, cool.
Super pumped about that. I'm a member of a range where it goes out to just past 700 yards. And I took one long range class I was invited to for it was actually my boss's birthday. He signed me up for a class and took me with him. So I that's the experience I have with it. And quite honestly, for shooting, that was the most fun I had in a really long time. So I'm excited to get into that and just kind of document my journey, not as this is what you need to do because I know what I'm talking about, but this is just kind of this is the stuff I'm learning along the way.
Right. And people really identify with the stuff that I'm learning along the way.
Absolutely, because a lot of them are going through the exact same thing or are thinking about it or have just done it. I'm not going to appeal to the dude who's shooting PRS matches. He's going to be you idiot. You're doing that totally wrong. But other guys will be oh, yeah, I had that same problem, or okay.
There's so many different levels, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I've never shot any precision either. So I would consume that content just because I want to get into it. Where, guys that are on a totally different level, sometimes it, shit goes way over my head, especially when they start talking about math and ballistics and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Can you draw pictures?
Yeah. Preferably really simple ones with stick figures, if possible.
Yeah, and I think the Triggrcon show has been that for me. If you listen to the first episodes, there's a lot of questions that I have about this, that, or the other thing, and how you try it. And it was coming from a place of ignorance and a lot of times ignorance for the sake of the audience.
Yeah.
Trying to explain a lot of things from top level shooters and how do we get them to come down a level to
explain it to somebody who doesn't quite have that foundation to discuss it at that level. Yep,
absolutely. So cool. I'm looking forward to that. Definitely do that.
Well, I don't know if they're going to let me do it, but that's my plan anyway. Yeah.
No one can stop you, man. You got a phone right there.
That's true. I could just put my face on YouTube on my YouTube channel.
That's right. All right, man. Well, I've exhausted all my questions here. I want to ask you about the last one here.
You just said you exhausted
all
of them.
All my questions I wanted to get on the legal topics and everything.
Okay.
Last one. You said you shot a 3-gun match one time. I did. How did that go?
Not well.
No?
Not well at all. All right. So it was a local club 3-gun match. It wasn't. I don't know if it was technically a 3. There were 3 guns used.
Right.
So
what were the guns?
3 guns. Well, there was a handgun, shotgun, and rifle.
Sounds like a 3-gun match.
Yeah, it sounds like a 3-gun match. I don't know if it was a sanctioned match. Maybe that's what I should say. Most
matches aren't sanctioned.
Okay, well then I shot a 3-gun match that wasn't 3-gun nation or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
And I brought I think it was shooting an HKP-30. I had an AR-15. God knows which one it was. And the shotgun I borrowed my dad's Beretta 1301. I think those old police trade-in ones.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, I'm like I shot USPSA on and off. Like I was never very consistent with it, and I certainly never like went home and dry fired or anything like that. So when we're talking like I shot a match, it was like I showed up and like I shot a match. So not the best, but I figured it got me like moving and gunning while running and things like that, and that's something that I didn't normally get to do. So the biggest thing on that one was when it came time to utilize the shotgun, not because of the reloading part, because when I loaded the frickin' gun, I didn't hit the button on the lifter underneath because I wasn't super familiar with how that one functioned. So every time I shot that thing, I had to rack that charging handle back, and I ripped like my hand open, and then I was shoving shells in the gun, and I'm bleeding, and by the time that stage was over, and like throwing guns in barrels was new to me, and by the time that stage was over, I had it. I was done. I was so done. And then I went home and I'm like, why isn't this thing working? And I looked, I looked online to see. Oh, I hate myself so much. It was just that little button. All I had to do was hit the button, the lifter would go, and then boom, we'd be in business, right? Nope, not for Adam.
So you had a bolt-action shotgun?
Yeah, pretty much. I had a bolt-action shotgun that had a magazine at least attached to it. Yeah, it was rough. But that was pretty much my experience with 3-gun, and I haven't been back since. Not so much because that soured my taste, but the opportunity I don't think has really shown itself. And honestly, just shooting competitively and time-wise, I haven't really had the time.
It does become like a huge time suck, for sure.
I think, and we'll see where this distance rifle stuff takes me, but I know there are matches up in Vermont and New Hampshire, it's a little bit of a hike for me, but I have friends up that way, so we'll see if maybe next year that's something I get into because.
Well, you said you're in Pennsylvania?
Yeah,
there's
outside Philly.
There's several ranges in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Neat.
Local matches and stuff. So offline, if you want, I can introduce you to some people or something like that. Make some connections if you want to.
Yeah. I was just again, like I said, I got friends that are up that way, so I thought, well, at least I know somebody and they can laugh at me, as opposed to like the dude I don't know laughing. Oh, you're Adam Kraut. You're so cool. Oh, you suck at shooting, man.
It's much easier. Yeah. and then everyone else like, Adam Kraut, that guy sucks.
That guy
shooting.
can't shoot
Guy's
for
terrible.
worth of shit.
Guy's full of shit.
Well, it's actually funny. So I took a battle rifle class with my buddy Jared, and he was teaching it, and it was funny. I showed up, and like some guys kind of knew who I were, and at the end they were like, "Wow, you can actually shoot." I'm like, yeah, I think so.
I get that too.
I don't claim to be the best by any stretch of measure, but like I think I can kind of hold my own. I'm all right.
I get that too, and I got that recently. We did a shoot off. Like it was 5 stages, and then you get put in a big like NCAA bracket.
Okay.
And then you shoot off against each other, where you shoot the same arrays. And I smoked like I shouldn't say it like that because they're going to be listening, but I beat 3 guys.
Smoked you.
Very closely beat 3 guys that that I interact with online a lot because they're patrons of the show.
Yep.
And
not for long.
Not for long. They all fired me on Monday, but they one of the comments from one of the guys is like, "You can actually shoot." I'm like, yeah.
Thank you,
dude. I've shot like 40 matches in the last 3 years. Yes, I can shoot, and I think people are confused by the questions I ask, and I'm trying. It's like we're trying to teach here, man. So there's a little bit of that going on. Yes, I'm learning along with the audience as well, but and I'm not the best, but I can hang sometimes.
You don't necessarily have to be the best. You can still present information about things and not be the best about it. That's why you're presenting information.
Yeah, exactly. And over the 3 years of doing the show and all the audience learning, I've learned as well. So that's pretty cool.
That's rad.
It's cool to be a part of. All right, man. Last question for you.
Okay.
Final thought or piece of advice, something you want to give the audience to take away on anything that we've talked about.
Don't go to law school. Next question.
Nice.
Boom.
That's an awesome. I hear that from so many lawyers.
Yeah. See, that doesn't surprise me. Wow. Final piece of advice. Yeah. Actually. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, as far as your, political affiliations and whatnot. Like, be you. Don't be afraid to be you. Don't worry about fitting in with a crowd, because the odds are that dude's lying about what he actually thinks. Most of them anyway. I think it's important that you look hard in the mirror as to who you are and be happy with it. And if people don't like you, then screw them. What do you need their approval for? As long as you're doing your thing and you're having a good time. Cool, man. Like,
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonderful attitude. Well, Adam, thanks so much for being a part of the show, man. Sure. I appreciate you carving out an hour in the middle of the show here. It's great to meet you this weekend.
Yeah.
And glad we got to talk.
Me too. This was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Hey, before you take off, make sure to head over to 3gunshow.com/episode 205. There you will find the link to Adam Kraut's website and the petition to nominate him for the 2019 NRA Board of Directors. If you like what Adam had to say in the podcast, take the time to mail in a petition, and let's get another voice on the board that speaks for the modern firearms owner. This podcast is brought to you by Armalite, the original. Armalite rifles put the AR in AR-15. The rifles themselves come with 1 8 twist barrels, match barrels, 18-inch or 13.5-inch with a 15-inch or 12.5-inch handguard, Timney trigger, Luth AR stock, adjustable gas system, tunable comp, a patented tunable comp. This thing's ready to go right out of the box for a 3-gun with no additional modifications other than putting on a nice optic. I myself use a Vortex Viper PST 1-6 when I'm shooting TAC Ops or their Spitfire when I'm shooting limited. Check them out at armalite.com. Quick reminder that if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcast content, so you will always get the very latest. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.